Welcome to the Forward Conservation Meeting being held at public hearing on Monday, July 10th, 2023. First floor hearing room, One Government Center, Fall River, to consider the following petitions, listed notice. Pursuant to the open meeting laws, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived by those present, are deemed acknowledged and permissible. We'll start with roll call.
Chris Boyle here.
Louis Ferrer.
John Brandt,
Nikita Viera.
James Hornsby.
and we're missing Jim Cusick and Paulo Emerald. And we also have tonight with us Nina Pavo, Administrative Aide, and we have Dan Aguirre, Conservation Agent. Okay. First on the list, old business, is a request for a certificate of compliance, SE-24-765.
John, before you get started, can you read the open meeting law stuff?
I did.
All of it?
Yeah.
Public comment thing, perceived, unperceived, all that? Public, all right. We both missed it? I didn't hear it either. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep, I can read it again for you if you
Nope,
want.
that's okay.
Okay. Is a certificate of compliance, SE-24-765. Owner applicant is Highland Farms Development 2 LLC. Project location, 245 Fieldstone Lane. Assessor's map is U-04-0059. Applicant requesting a certificate of compliance stating that all work regulated by the order conditions has been satisfactorily completed. This was tabled from June 5th, 2023 meeting. Anybody here for that?
No, I had spoke with the engineer previously, same as the last time. This petition was being tabled because loam and seeding work hadn't been completed. Then they decided to install a pool, which was filed under a separate file number, SE-24-819. So this certificate of compliance will just sit until the pool work and all the final restoration will be done.
Okay,
Recommended table.
so can I have a motion to table?
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call vote?
Aye.
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 All right, next on is a notice of intent, SE-24-817. Owner applicant is Mellow Estate LLC. Project location is 1262 Brighton Ave. Assessor's map is J-24-002, filed by Zenith Consulting Engineer LLC on behalf of the applicant. The applicant proposes the removal of existing rock outcrop to establish a contractor's yard with material storage facilities. Also, restoration is proposed within a previously disturbed riverfront area and buffer zone, as well as cleaning of existing drainage swale in Brighton Ave, subject to Mass DOT approval. This was tabled by June 5th, and they asked us if we could table this for the next agenda. So can I have a motion to the table?
So moved.
Before we make the motion, so we've asked them to remove materials prior to this, right?
Yep.
So do we know why they brought more materials onto the property when they've been issued a cease and desist order? Can anybody
I
tell
do
me?
not. So, in my report, revised plans were submitted today. I had met just after the last meeting with the applicant and their engineer, went over some ideas that they were incorporating into the new design. The issue of the disturbed area, the stockpiled materials, that has not been resolved. And then additionally, today, there's a new stockpile of boulders and multiple pieces of equipment being stored in that area, the rear area, that's under cease and desist.
So the road millings were removed.
Yes.
Was the cease and desist pertaining just to the road millings?
No, because the road millings came in after the cease and
So we,
desist.
so we don't know why he's
Yeah.
bringing more materials onto the property
Correct.
when he was told not to.
That's correct. So I would say we would have to bring that up at the next meeting.
Okay. So can I have a motion to table?
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call?
Aye.
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 Okay. Next is a request for certificate of compliance, SE-24-788. Owner applicant's Highland Farms Development 2 LLC. Project location, 164 Fieldstone Lane. Assessor's map is U-04-0069. Filed by Civil and Environmental Consultant, Inc. On behalf of applicant, the applicant is requesting a certificate of compliance with the exception of final lawn development on this lot. The work authorized under this order has been completed. and substantial compliance with the order of condition. This was tabled from June 5th, 2023 meeting.
So as stated at the last hearing, the applicant has submitted a request for determination of applicability for the construction of a patio, shed, and fencing on this lot. That work, once completed, would allow them to do the remaining loam and seeding and restoration work under the order of conditions. So later on tonight, item number 5 under new business is a request for determination for the installation of that patio, shed, and fence.
Okay.
So I would recommend that you table the matter with regards to the certificate of compliance request.
Okay, can I have a motion to table?
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call?
Aye.
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 Okay. Next is a request for determination of accessibility. 182, owner applicant is TEC Associates. Project location is Mass Coastal Railroad right-of-way, Assessors Map NA, filed by Tech Associates requesting to determine whether the boundaries of resource areas depicted in the plan and PR maps referenced as are accurately delineated. No work is proposed within wetland resource areas. Vegetation control will conform to the guidelines set forth in Mass Right-of-Way Management Regulations 333 CMR 11 and approved by Vegetation Management Plan VMP. This was tabled from June 5th. Did you want to comment on the,
No, we can wait and see if anybody's here to present first.
anyone?
No? Were they in contact with you regarding anything? No? All right, I guess we'll table the matter until they,
Okay. So can
actually,
I-
if you want, you can table it till later in the evening first, see if they come
Okay.
in. And then at the end of the night, we can just.
Can I
table
have
it
a
till
motion
next
to table this to the later?
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call?
Aye.
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 Okay. Next is a notice of intent, SE-24-825. Owner applicant is Antonio Almeida. Project location, 38 Judge Street. Assessor's map is Y-09-0010, filed by owner of property proposing construction of an addition to a single-family house, tabled from June 5th.
Is there anyone here for that one?
If you can, just state your name and address.
Yeah, I think we can for this one. Thought that was the issue.
My name is Rami Sidani.
Hold on, before we get started, if I remember correctly, at the last meeting, was that, oh, you have it all now? Okay. Green cards and legal ad, I think that was the issue last time,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
My name is Rami Sidani. I work for North County Group in Taunton, Mass. Our address is 4 Court Street, Suite 102, Taunton. I'm here to represent the property owner in filing for a notice of intent for an addition to a single-family house. It's, the existing house is built on a pier foundation on sonotubes. And the proposed addition will also be built on sonotubes, which is a pier foundation. The closest point to the pond is approximately 60 feet to the rear of the addition. And there is no proposed grading on site. The septic system is existing, it's in the front of the property. There's also a vinyl fence on the northeast side of the property, and there's a wood stockade fence on the southwestern property line. That's my presentation.
All right, so before you
Simple.
guys ask some questions, after reviewing the plan, I had a couple of comments
Sure.
with some revisions that should be made to the plan. If the applicant can provide lot coverage calculation of all impervious surfaces, provide the survey datum utilized for the survey plan, provide a pond flood elevation, provide roof runoff infiltration system. A note shall be added that there will be no increase in the number of bedrooms to the single-family dwelling. And this will also need a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals and site plan review approval. Those are just for the applicant's knowledge. But with regards to the Wetlands Protection Act, if we could get these items added to the plan, I see no issue with the proposal, however, they would be conditional upon these other items being satisfied.
I have a copy of the FEMA floodplain. It does not have any elevations on it.
So, with South Watuppa Pond actually has a pond full elevation.
Oh, okay.
This gentleman can tell you exactly what it is, 132.4 or something like that, but you need to be on that data, you know, in order to make that work, so you're just gonna wanna make sure that you've got that information on the plan. If you wanna call our office tomorrow, we can provide that information for you. The only other issue would be that along the side lot lines, I would extend the silt fence, the hay bales, or whatever it's got. The septic system was just installed maybe 6 months ago
Yeah,
as a repair to the existing little cottage that was there. So I think once we get this additional information, I don't see an issue with why the application can't go forward.
So can we approve pending receipt of the information, or do we want to wait to receive the information?
I would wait till you get the information.
Okay.
I'd like to minimize the amount of conditions on things, if at all possible.
Any other questions from the board? So there were 6 recommendations. You've got them all written down? Do you need to?
I'll send them to you.
Can you?
Yeah.
Send it-
I
okay.
do. I have,
Okay, go ahead.
what are you, I looked at it, but I was concerned with the flood and the runoff and all that, and what are you doing for sewage there? Are you hooking into city sewage?
There's a septic system that was installed approximately 6 months ago.
They installed a new septic system a few months ago.
Right.
There is no sewer. There is no municipal sewer down there.
It hasn't gone that far.
No, not
And
even
it's an
close.
adequate system?
Yes, yep.
It's a new one?
For up to a 2-bedroom home, yes. That's why the requirement of no increase in the number of bedrooms would be a condition.
Okay, and how close to the water are you, is the home?
60 feet is the closest point to the water.
Yeah, so that we would want you to be extremely careful. I'm told that, for example, that the pollution levels are not, are still heavy. And that, for example, in August, the rowing club is not, which is not too far away, is not permitted to have children in camp because of the bacteria. And I don't know if the committee, and please don't use, and I hope that will be a condition, any fertilizers or weed killers or that sort of thing that might drift into the pond.
That's in our standard order of conditions.
Right, but I'm just making, I know that, but
Okay.
I'm just 60 feet is close, and I know how those places were built. I live in one myself, as a matter of fact, so. Thank you.
All righty. So can I have a motion to,
Gentlemen, any neighbors?
any butters, anyone? Okay. Motion to table?
So move.
Seconded.
Roll call?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All righty. Next is a notice of intent, owner applicant 52 Ferry LLC, project location 52 Ferry Street, assessor's map is N-14-005, filed by applicant, and applicant proposes construction of new 96 slip marina and full yard for vessels ranging 24 to 60 feet in transit dockage, public fishing pier, and walkway. This was tabled from June 5th, 2023. We don't have a file number, but you can present to us.
I'm attorney Mark L. Levin, 138 Rock Street, Fort Mass. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'd first like to present to the clerk, so she'll have it for her file, the receipt notices on the notice of intent to the abutters, and also the proof of advertisement for your files.
Well,
Today, what I'm here to present with my client, because we feel that, unfortunately, my client's engineer had a serious injury recently, was in the hospital, and it took him a little while to get a document to DEP, and apparently, during the time that he was out, his office did not transmit the plan, the revised plan that you have, which eliminated the travel-lift area, which was their concern to whether or not there would be any stormwater requirements. So we believe, we hope, that that suffices their needs. I believe my client transmitted that letter to the board so that they have that for their records. So what I'm here to do, because my client will do the really in-depth stuff, because he knows this stuff, because he's been in the business for a long time. I'm just trying to focus on the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Rivers Protection Act that your jurisdiction leaks to. As you all know, my client has the marina next door, Borden Light. He's going to expand this to include additional marina activities. The property itself, and he'll give you the history of it, as to whether or not the client is going to affect a protected resource. The simple answer is no. The property was an industrial and commercial use property for over 180 years. It last had a company that manufactured light and heavy oil mixtures, and it would be transported by land and by sea. There's a terminal pier, an old pier there. And from years and years and years, that's what this property was. My client has some pictures to show you what that area was. Now, this development is allowed in this area because it's a water-dependent business. And that's what this area is supposed to promote, and that's what the River Acts does. Not only that, but the city of Fall River changed their bylaws about 8 years ago to make this area a water area to have businesses that are dependent on that.
Yeah.
So the resource that you're looking for is to have this type of resource that is for both recreational and commercial uses. Most of my clients is going to be recreational, but he is going to revamp the old terminal pier, which will be used for a recreational fishing area for the community, be public access, and also have some slips for commercial boats so that they can have access to it. And when I say commercial boats, there may be a fisherman who will come in to unload his fish to sell to a market here, or someone that's just coming in for some dockage. Now, if you look at the waterfront and what's happening today, Route 79 is almost completely down. The city and state spent $210 million in order to eliminate that barrier between the city and the waterfront. And the whole purpose is that the public from the city will have access to the waterfront freely and easily. My client's providing an area that will have access to that waterfront and has a public access across the property itself, or will be. Now, this property, as you know, is not in a designated shellfish area. It's not protected. So you're not saving a resource for shellfish. You would have had to require under your bylaws and the state law to map out where the shellfish were and designate that area on a mapping system so that people would know that. That's never been done. And the reason why is because this part of the river's been closed for 70 years for any shellfish. So there's no shellfish that is a resource to the public, and it's not significant if there happen to be some mussels or something growing at the bottom, because they're not harvested at all. The other thing is that this is not a public water supply. Obviously, the river is not being used as brackish water, and it is only used for sea life. There's no wild habitat there. You go to this property, you'll see it's a gravel piece of land. It used to have some industrial structures on the thing. You don't see trees with birds that are on there or anything else. You don't see anything but a graveled, pervious material that just allows water to soak through into the ground. The only thing you have out there is the riprap and the wall. my client intends to maintain and make repairs as necessary. You don't have a beachfront area, you don't have a tide area, there's no area where wildlife would exist on this property, actually. The Rivers Act, as you are aware, is for you to make determination that my client's project will be orderly and foster the use of the water properly so that it's maintained. The interesting part about this is that my client is actually not building anything on the land. It runs from the riprap and wall out. My client, by law, is allowed to build up to the 100-foot buffer from the channel line, and that's based on a state requirement. And yes, he will be applying through DEP for a Chapter 91 license and the Corps of Engineers to construct that. So they'll be overseeing the construction that is off the property in the water. Now, is this as a protected wetland? No, there's no wetlands there. There's no vegetation to disturb, there's no beachfront to disturb, there's no filling that my client is doing. The limited use on land is really just to repair the maintenance of the riprap in the wall, and the only thing he's gonna be doing would be to add utilities that will go down to the docks. They will be underground, and the ground will be set back to its normal place and graded so that the gravel, you would not know anyone was there. They're just gonna be gravelled back over to it. Does the property cause any significant change to the stormwater that now exists? No. This is gonna be parking. All they're gonna do is cars come out there, they're gonna park there. And like I said, other than the installation.
Excuse me, it will be what, sir?
Parking.
Parking,
Parking.
okay, thank you.
That's all it's gonna be on there.
I just missed the word.
No, that's fine. The only use is parking. That's the only thing that.
For the gravelled area.
In the gravelled area.
So there'll be cars there most of the time.
Well, my client would hope so, but you never know.
Well,
in
so would I,
business.
if if I were running the place,
Yeah, and
yeah.
that'll be open to the public, like I said, because there'll be a public fishing pier that is changing over to the terminal area, the terminal pier, and access to commercial boats. So that's one of the things that he's gonna benefit there. He is putting a sanitary pump system in there. Now, that'll be similar to the project he has next door. That'll be a barge on the outside of the perimeter of this property and not on land. People will be able to pump, and not only will it be just for my client's use of boats, but this is gonna be a public pumping facility. So not only does that provide his client, his slip owners, the ability to use it, but it'd be for the public, which will also hope deter some expenses that the city of Fall River may have by maintaining these pump boats. They may not eliminate them completely, but it certainly cause them not to have to be out there as often, or to limit the number of boats that they would need as required by law. That's what I really have to really focus you into what this is. I'm gonna let my client take over to go over, because, he's been in the business for a long time. You see the marina down there, it's well operated, it's an asset to the community, and it brings what the whole city has been trying to do, is develop the waterfront so it's useful to its community, not just to a few industrial uses. Thank you. Mike?
Thank you. Thank you, Board, for affording this opportunity to come before you today. This has been a long-time project that's finally coming to fruition. I think Mark said it best. Under the Wetlands Act and the Waterways Act, they're under their authority and purpose, under the legislative standard that they adopted. It specifically says that the Commonwealth is to ensure that the tidelands are utilized only for water-dependent uses or otherwise serve a proper public purpose. And under Section D of the Waterways, this is under their authority and purpose. Their whole goal is to support public and private efforts to revitalize unproductive property along urban waterfronts in a manner that promotes public use and enjoyment of the water. And I would suggest to you, I actually had a blow-up that no project does this more than what you have before you. As my attorney mentioned, it has been heavily industrialized for over 180 years. This particular piece has been so industrialized that it does not have any of the 8 statutorily protected resources. It does not degrade any of the current conditions, which is required by DEP, but rather creates a window to the waterfront, which is DEP's sole mission. So for the sake of having it made, I figured I'd at least see it, because we all know it. But this goes back to 1840, and this is the bottom of Ferry Street. And as you can see, in 1840, American Linen already had a large building for their industrial use. And since 1840, it's been a variety of things. The most recently was an oil terminal, where oil came in by barges, was recycled, and then left by truck. That oil terminal went out of business and closed down. And I would suggest to you that under the statute, that seems to be an unproductive property, and what we're here before you is to revitalize that property. The issue when constructing on the water, below mean high water, is does the land under the ocean or the land containing shellfish? Now, statutorily, again, 310 CMR 912, the proposed project is a water-dependent use. And a water-dependent use is described as marinas, boat basin, channels, areas, or other commercial and recreational boating facilities. And what that means is, if you are a water-dependent use, you are allowed to do these activities, even if the land does contain shellfish. However, the statute asks, and the standard is, that the construction method takes into account efforts to minimize the impact, should the land containing shellfish be what's designated as significant. And what I would suggest to you is the land under the ocean is not significant. The statute is very clear. CMR 1034. The area containing shellfish must be significant. By regulation, containing shellfish shall be found significant to the protection of the land containing shellfish when it has been identified and mapped as followed by the local conservation commission or the department in consultation with the DEF, or by the conservation or department based upon maps and written documentation of the shellfish constable. And here's the important one. Department, in making such identification, factors shall be taken into account and documented: the density of the shellfish, the size of the area, and the historic and current importance of the area to recreational and commercial shellfishing. There has not been any recreation or commercial shellfishing in this area of the proposed project for over 75 to 80 years. So therefore, you cannot deem land containing shellfish as significant, and therefore, you can't, under the reg, it is our opinion, you cannot limit the construction of this particular proposal based on that. And the statute even goes on further to say, if you were to determine it's significant, but it's a water-dependent use, it can still go forward. So even if you, from a practical matter, from a two-prong approach, this proposal in front of you is allowed to happen in that basin. But I would suggest to you that I think all of us have some knowledge that there hasn't been any shellfishing along our shores for a very, very long time. I think council did an excellent job identifying it. The performance standards for a riverfront area are the protection and public interest private water supply, groundwater, wildlife habitat, fisheries, shellfish, flooding, storm damage, and pollution. We don't check off any of those boxes. And in fact, the proposal by the construction of the outer breakwater actually helps with flooding and helps with storm damage because it acts as a barrier should a storm come up the bay before the water actually gets to the shoreline. This site is, I think, will be a wonderful window for not only the marina customers, but also the citizenship of the city, which for years, for a long time, almost 200, have been shut off from this area. And I respectfully ask that you grant an order of conditions as the first step before we go before, as council said, the Waterways Division, DEP in Chapter 91, and also the Army Corps of Engineers.
Just show them the plans so they can see.
So this is essentially what we envision. So this is looking back at the city. To your right is the existing marina, and this is the proposed marina that's on your document. This will be public docking here. The pier that council mentioned is the existing pier, I believe constructed back in 1940. That'll be on the other side, and it's rather significant, and it's in the cove between my abutter, Boardington Remington, and myself. This is just a different perspective, because people often ask, well, where is it? So, this is
okay.
coming down Ferry Street, this is Almond Street, and this is the old Quaker factory. This is the existing marina, this is the piece that we are looking to add before you.
Would you be kind enough to show it to the left field here? Because we
Sure. There you go.
couldn't see. Your body was, where is the Ferry Street, the new pier?
So, right here is Ferry Street, this all is pre-existing, this is the proposed that you have in front of you.
Okay, and just let me do the follow-up. And how many, where will people fish?
So, there's an existing pier here,
Yeah, there is.
and our plan is that needs to be rebuilt, and our plan is to open that up and make it for public fishing.
Oh, not on the new pier.
No, not on the new pier. These will be private. The public does not have the access to walk down those
Okay,
docks.
and there'll be no charge for the public place.
No.
That's the original terminal where they used to come in with the ships.
Okay, I simply misread it. I had visions of standing on your new pier and casting out, but, okay.
No.
It's, also, did we get a number for this?
No.
No, not
No,
yet.
we're hoping that tomorrow, as I mentioned earlier, Jim Hall, who's the engineer at Valve, had an accident a few weeks ago. He was
Well, that's
hospitalized.
a yes/no question.
Yeah, we don't have it today. We're hoping tomorrow.
Thank you.
A couple of quick questions, if you don't mind. How many slips overall?
96.
96. And you've got a public pump out station?
Currently,
It's right there, right? So that'll be for your transient as well as your
Yeah.
existing?
we did that out of our own funds rather than a grant, and that will continue to be open to the public.
Okay, so that's existing now?
That's existing now.
And does that utilize city services? Do you dump into the city treatment system or is it?
So that goes through a pipe and goes into the city sewer system, and we also allow the city's pump-out boat to utilize that.
And I can probably ask Paul this, there was a CSO outfall pipe in that area, correct?
Down the center of Ferry Street.
That's right.
Is that's been eliminated, that's offline, or is it still potential?
Still active.
It's still active?
It's still active, and I think he could probably tell you it's one of the largest in the city.
Yeah, I'm just
So,
concerned how that's gonna impact your.
It's right here.
Your operations.
It's under this pier.
Right.
And with this project doesn't involve any dredging.
No, I understand
So-
that, yeah.
And Paul could attest to it, it's really only an issue when we get a serious rain event. So when it's a serious rain event, usually takes 8 to 10 days to kind of bring the water back in. Serious rain events, there's not too many boaters or public down around.
I was just curious, thank you.
Which, it's funny, it's valid that you bring it up, but I think that goes more to the shellfish issue, in the sense
Well,
that
no,
this is
no, of course
right,
it does, I understand that. I'm
nobody's picking shellfish near the city outflow.
just- No, I understand.
Does the board have any other questions? I know, Dan, you had some,
Yeah, is there any neighbors, any abutters?
any butters?
Favor or opposed? No. So a month ago, I sat down with Mr. Lund to go over the first plans that were submitted, asked for a few items to be added to the plans, which some of them have been. We received revised plans on Thursday. I just got them today because I was off last week. So I would like the opportunity to sit down with Mr. Lund and his engineer to, nothing regulation-wise, it's strictly detail-oriented with regards to the plans and information that should be on the plan set. But nothing that would preclude you from voting once you get a file number. I've called DEP myself to discuss with the gentleman that's reviewing this, when the holdup for the file number had to do with the stormwater management report that he was requiring to be submitted. So the applicant hasn't been able to appease him as of this afternoon. So again, as Attorney Levin stated, trying to get this resolved for tomorrow, hopefully. So we'll know better for that. So I think tabling it for 1 month will give us the opportunity to get some really tightened up plans, get the final comments in from DEP, a file number, of course. We did get a letter from Department of Marine Fisheries. Some of the comments are valid, some I think are not applicable to this location. We had also received a letter from the harbor master stating that he had no opposition to the project. Those are two of my initial concerns. And then that'll give us some time to draft up some potential conditions. You don't get these often to vote and approve on, so I think we're close. Regulation-wise, we're very close, so it's just dotting i's and crossing t's
That's what I thought.
and getting a file number from DEP.
Alrighty.
I have one question, though. On the aerial, is the last barge missing from that picture? Is there going to be one coming out from Borden Light,
Correct.
the one that
So
turns that corner? Okay.
currently,
Yep.
that's actually coming out this spring and being replaced by this same system, and that will remain in place until this comes in, because right now, this is all exposed
Exposed.
to the north.
But ultimately, it'll be open like that.
Ultimately,
Okay.
that piece will then get incorporated
Into
into
that
what you
stretch.
see out
Now,
here.
is that the same system that Bristol just built in their
It's the
public
same,
marina?
it's the
concept?
same company,
Okay,
but it's a little different because I have substantially deeper water.
yeah, very deep.
And this will be pile held as opposed to that's mooring held.
Okay.
But it's the same company, and for all intensive purposes, it will almost look exactly the same with the difference of the pile sticking
Yeah,
out.
no, I was there Thursday or Friday, and it was very nice coming in from the water.
Yeah,
Right.
due to the depth, we're doing pile-based.
And just so you know, Mike didn't mention it, but they're putting I mean, if there was shellfish that we had to worry about, the design of how they're now put into the ground is a newer procedure where it doesn't splat out over the area, it jets it down, so it just drops in instead of having large areas that are disturbed if we were even concerned about it.
We have a motion to table until,
So moved.
Table?
oh, sorry, John, sorry.
Motion table?
Aye, we have a motion to table?
Yeah.
Second?
Okay, roll call?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
If you can find out
Thank you
when
very much.
find out when Jim's available. Okay. Sit down. How's he doing, okay?
I talked to him, he's still a little sore.
Yeah,
He's trying the best he can, but
yeah.
falling down, I told him, you're not Superman anymore, you can't leap a bound stairs and expect to land straight up.
He's better in the morning.
Yeah,
No, it's,
all right,
it's,
Thank you.
it's
Thank you
very,
for coming.
You're hurt,
Thank you.
looking at him.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
not good.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thanks. All right.
Yeah, I'll grab it.
Next, notice of intent is SE-24-824. Owner applicant is Carla Diego. Project location 14 Brookfield Terrace. Assessors map is U-04-0064. Filed by Northeast Engineering Consultant on behalf of applicant. The applicant is proposing to install a shed on the northwest corner of the property. All the proposed work is located within the 100-foot buffer zone of it, bordering vegetated wetlands. This was tabled from June 5th.
Good evening. For the record, Jeff Tolman from Northeast Engineers and Consultants, here representing Carla Diago, the applicant on this notice of intent. And the reason we filed this, just to give you a little background, I mean, we are just looking to construct a shed at this point, a 10 by 14 shed that would be located on the back right side of the property, adjacent to the existing stone retaining wall. When she initially approached me, she was considering putting in a pool as well. But her primary concern at this time is to get the shed in. So we removed the pool from the proposal, and she had already, paid the filing fees or give me the check for the filing fees. So we just decided to move forward with the notice of intent rather than try to do an RDA. But as you can see, there's very small amount of work that's proposed here. It's just isolated in that one corner of the property. The shed itself is going to be put on 4 concrete supports at each corner. I'm sorry, I think there might be 6. There's probably one in the middle as well. Just sonotubes put into the ground to pour concrete, put the shed on it. And that's it. It's pretty basic, pretty straightforward. There's not a lot to it.
Okay.
Be happy to answer any questions. It doesn't involve relocating anything that's on the site now. It's all within the limit of work that was previously established when the lot was developed. So,
I have no issues.
Any issue from the board? Questions? Okay, can I have a motion to,
Any abutters?
any abutters? No, okay, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All righty.
thank you.
Next is a notice of intent, SE-24-822, owner applicant Commonwealth of Mass Department of Fish and Game, City of Fall River, project location 0 Sheridan Street, assessors map is E-25-0049, filed by LEC Environmental on behalf of applicant. Proposed project includes upgrading existing stormwater drainage infrastructure, increased functionality, and improved water quality in South Watuppa Pond. This was tabled from June 5th.
Thank you. Is it possible to hook into the computer? Or
Yep, so it's just that.
There's a
Oh,
cable
sorry.
right there, hopefully you have that. We often find that we don't have matching inputs and outputs.
Good. Oh,
Great,
can't see that.
thank you. Members of the commission, Mr. Chairman, for the record, Nate Oshkarian with LEC Environmental, presenting on behalf of the applicant. In this case, it is the City of Fall River. The project that we're presenting tonight is the construction of a new stormwater basin at the South Watuppa Pond boat ramp. This is going to be replacing a dilapidated stormwater swale which currently exists on site. This project is funded by an MVP grant. I'll get into the project, the site in a second, and the project itself. But this is funded by an MVP grant, which is a municipal vulnerability preparedness grant, which basically the overarching intent of that is simply to enhance the water quality that is going back into South Watuppa Pond as well as the watershed. So a little bit about the property. This is the South Watuppa Pond boat ramp located on the northwestern shoreline of South Watuppa Pond. It's about 5.2 acres in size, and it features a rather large parking lot which is connected to the boat ramp, which extends about 75 feet southwest or southeast into South Watuppa Pond. Also on the site are undeveloped forested wetlands and undeveloped forested uplands. The protected wetland resource areas that are on or within 100 feet of this property include bordering vegetated wetlands, bank to South Watuppa Pond, and bordering lands subject to flooding. So rolling over to the existing conditions, I just want to point out the wetland resource areas that we delineated, and as they're demarcated on the plan. We have in green the bordering vegetated wetlands to the south, also to the north, to the northeast, and then in blue the bank which runs landward of the riprap. Here we have the proposed conditions of the stormwater basin. Zoom in a little bit. The main components of these include a stone diaphragm, a sediment forebay, of course the basin itself, and the outlet right in here. And then the mitigation measures that are going to be implemented during construction include silt fence around the construction site, as well as silt sock which will also be surrounding any stockpiles that will be on the property during the time of construction of the basin. That's all I have for my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Just for the record, Paul Ferlin, Administrator of Community Utilities, oversee water and sewer. This project has come up in relation to the water quality studies that we've been doing on the South Watuppa Pond to be able to improve the water quality. There was 4 projects that were identified in our Phase 1 study that we did on the South Watuppa, this being one, another one being near Cherry Lane off of Lake Avenue, third one being in Westport, originally on Tickle Road, we moved it to Plymouth Ave area in Westport, and also the Sucker Brook stream and wetland improvements as it comes through. In relation to this particular project, this was identified to be able to reduce the phosphorus and nutrient loading, the runoff that comes from the large parking lot area there. Originally, when this parking lot was constructed, there was some very small remediation that was done on the site, what was required at the time to be able to construct it. This is a little bit larger. Will remove more of those phosphorus and nutrients. This is an example project, what we're using as an example project for many projects that's going to be needed around the South Watuppa Pond to improve the water quality, as well as in-pond treatments and other things. We're moving forward with the study of South Watuppa Pond. We're in our 3rd year of sampling. This year we have UMass on board to continue out the sampling within the South Watuppa Pond. Hopefully within the future, we'll be back to this board for treatment, potentially within the pond. Also involves other permitting as required, but that's a little ways off in the future. But again, in relation to this project, we did receive an MVP grant, so Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant, which funded most of this work. And the balance of the funding, the 25% match, came from Bristol County ARPA funds that were allocated to us by the City Council. So all this work so far hasn't cost the city anything. No, that doesn't mean anything to the Conservation Commission, but just a little bit of a background about this project, how this project came about. The actual property is owned by Fish and Game under the DCR umbrella, so we have been in contact with them. They are on board with this project.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
I just have 3 small comments, and very similar to the last one that was on the same pond. Sorry if I missed it, but if you could provide the survey data and flood elevation of the pond. And then also, through the area where there is no curb, if some guardrail could be installed in that location. I think there's one section that there is no curbing at all. And then my last question is really not permitting related. Is there funding in place to build this?
Not as of yet.
Okay.
We're looking to apply for grants. There are other opportunities that we're looking at. So SNEP grant is a possible opportunity for construction MVP. They've been excited about this project and has supported us. So we're looking at funding opportunities for construction, but permitting was part of the MVP grant that we did have in place.
I think it's important that you all understand, so Paul and I deal with all of the different developments throughout the city, and not just this water body, but wherever we can, we are requiring people to propose some type of phosphorus reduction in their designs, even to the smallest extent. Even when they're renovating big mill complexes, there's always some level of improvement. So I have to give some credit to Paul and his group for putting his mouth where his money is, and or opposite, money where his mouth is, eventually, and implementing that type of, production and improvement in a location like this. That's all. I don't know if there's anybody here in favor or opposed.
Anybody here? Okay, so can I?
One quick question. How would I look at your study? Is it online or?
Yep, so if you go to the WatuppaReserve.com, so that's a website that the Water Department and Sewer Department, my departments maintain. And we have all the studies and PowerPoint presentations so far that we've done in relation to the South Watuppa Pond. We also have a lot of information about the bioreserve and different things out there. So that's WatuppaReserve.com.
Oh, is that all one small letters?
Yep, all lowercase, all one word, no spaces.
Thank you. And I echo what our agent said.
Thank you.
So can I have a motion to issue an order of conditions?
So moved. So moved.
Second?
Second?
Roll call?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
guys.
Very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, new business, request for certificate of compliance, SE-24-787, owner applicants Highland Farms Development 2 LLC, project locations 91 Fieldstone Lane. Assessor's map is U-04-0052, filed by Civil and Environmental Consultant Inc. on behalf of applicant. The applicant is requesting a certificate of compliance with the exception of a final lawn development on this lot and work authorized under this order completed in substantial compliance with order condition. Anybody here for this one?
I went out and did a site visit this morning. The work is substantially complete. The as-built plan itself needed a few minor revisions, which we can be waiting for, but no issue with you issuing the certificate of compliance.
Okay, should we ask for a certificate of compliance when the as-built plans come in?
No, you can issue, as-bills will get revised, and I can hold them up for the
Okay.
occupancy permit to get those in-house, but the work is actually complete, is the engineer's deficiency in what they
Okay,
what they
alrighty.
presented.
So, any questions from the board? Can I have a motion to grant a certificate of compliance?
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Alrighty. Next is request of a certificate of compliance, SE-24-695, owner applicants Nantucket Sound Seafood, project location 1375 Airport Road, assessor's map is Z-03-0108, filed by Civil Environmental Consultant Inc. on behalf of the applicant. The applicant is requesting a certificate of compliance with the exception of final lawn development and final top layer of asphalt on this site. The work authorized under this order has been completed and substantial compliance with the order condition. Anybody here for that project?
So on June 23rd, I made a site visit, sent in email with a punch list of items that needed to be completed, that I went back again and looked at today. Some of those have been completed, and I'm assuming that because they're not here this evening, that we'll be waiting to get that revised plan. Some of it was substantial enough that I wouldn't want you to issue the certificate without the work being completed. A lot of it had to do with riprap and stuff that wasn't installed, so a lot of stormwater items.
Okay. Any
So I'll
questions from the
recommend
board?
table.
Can I have a motion to table?
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call?
Aye.
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 Alrighty. Next is a request for a certificate of compliance, SE-24-783, owner applicant, City of Fall River Project, south of Maritime Street at Westport Line, assessors map NA, filed by VHB on behalf of applicant. The applicant is requesting a certificate of compliance. The project is compliance with order conditions. The site was stabilized, erosion control were removed and disposed of the site, May 2023.
So this was the extension, what we call the Westport Spur of the
Mhm.
Quequechan Rail Trail. Work has all been completed. Side slopes have been stabilized. I've been on it 2 or 3 times already walking. It's pretty well done. So I recommend you issue the certificate of compliance.
Anybody here for that? Okay, so can I have a motion to a certificate of compliance?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Aye.
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 Okay. Next is a local acquisition for natural diversity land program submitted by Department of Community Utilities requesting to approve and endorse land grant by DCU wishes to acquire the 7.1 acre conservation land portion of Adirondack Farms located on Blossom Road.
Good evening again. So, Department of Community Utilities with the Water Department, under the Water Department, we've been working to acquire a property known as Adirondack Farm in Fall River. This is a key piece of property for us in relation to watershed protection. It is also a key property for us in relation to what we're going to be using it as for the front portion in the future as a bioreserve discovery center. So educational center and a kind of a welcome mat to the bioreserve. So the property was acquired with multiple different funding sources, and it was split up into two portions. There's 7.1 acres in the rear of the property, and that was used, funding from the land grant through EOEEA was used for the purchase of that, as well as CPC funding was also used for that 7.1 acres. The area towards the front, where the house is and the barn and the other structures, there was ARPA funding and a state earmark that was used, allocated towards the purchase of that portion. So what we were looking for, so underneath the land grant program, and Mike will go into depth, but the Conservation Commission needs to essentially take possession of that piece of property. So we're asking the Conservation Commission to be able to take possession of the back 7.1 acres. We've already gone through with the closing on the deed and all of the other instruments during the closing. It was labeled that the Conservation Commission have care and custody of that rear portion, and the Water Department have care and custody of the front 2+ acres. So that's how it was divided up. What was provided to you, and there's a couple other things, so I'll turn it over to Mike and kind of let him run through the whole entire what we're asking for.
Thank you, Commission. So this was it was actually an $820,000 purchase, and this grant represented a little over $260,000 toward that purchase. It was specifically for the conservation land, the 7.1 acres, as Paul mentioned, and there's three elements that need to be completed and actually signed off by the Conservation Commission tonight. The first is the project agreement, and this kind of stipulates what with the EOEA, what the conservation values are, and how we are going to manage those conservation values in order to have fidelity with the program. So that's the first document that you would have before you tonight. The second is a billing form, and that simply is enables us to basically get the reimbursement. We've paid in advance for the fund for the property, obviously, and the billing form requires to be signed in order to get the reimbursement from the state. The third element is the land management plan, and it is in some respects it has photographs showing both the boundary. The property has been surveyed, obviously, and there are photo documenting the different boundaries. There's ancient stone bounds, there's new drill marks, stone walls, and so forth, as well as some of the current conditions of the fields. It's 7.1 acres of really wonderful upland fields. There are not any wetlands on this property. It's been a farm for over 150 years and state-listed soils, and so the management plan will pretty much identify what the conservation values are. It will allow continued farming if that should be the direction that the education center will go in. It'll certainly be available to pursue farming uses, but it will remain conservation land. So it'll be grassland for the most part, open grassland contiguous to other forest that's owned by the city of Fall River, as well as very nearly contiguous to the shoreline of the North Watuppa as well. It's got just tremendous natural diversity and adjacent to natural diversity. So it's so these are the three forms that we would ask the Conservation Commission signatures on tonight.
Do you have any questions?
So just on top of that too, we've also drafted an MOU which I'll provide to the commission to be voted on at a later date. Essentially for, we know the Conservation Commission doesn't have staff or anything to be able to take care of that, so what we've done in the past with some properties that we've acquired this way is we've, Water Department, we've done an MOU with the Conservation Commission that allows us to be able to manage and maintain the property. Again, there's a lot of there's maintenance that's gonna need to be done in the future, so that MOU is just a document that kind of solidifies and momentifies the agreement that will maintain the property.
Any questions?
Nope.
Okay, can I have a motion to endorse the project?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you both
Thank you.
very much.
Mike,
Thanks for all
any,
your work on this, Mike, and if anybody's been out there, it's a beautiful piece of property. It goes right down to the north what's up a pond. It's,
It's beautiful.
as a
I walked.
discovery center, the potential is incredible. We're very fortunate in the city to, live in a city where more than half is forested, and now we have an area for nature interpretation, education. I think it's a great idea, and Mike's worked diligently on this, but I know with Paul's support, he's been a tireless advocate for this, so I just want to thank Mike for the record. Great work he's done.
Right.
It's a big step forward, it's really significant for the city.
where are we at with conservation restrictions?
Pending a meeting with the attorney upstairs.
It's been going on for a while.
The pending has been, yes. The conversation, not so much.
Yep.
So could we get these actually physically signed
Yeah,
tonight?
If
I'll
you want to
leave
wait
these.
till after the meeting.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm not gonna
Okay.
hold anyone for that.
And,
Thank you all.
guys.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty. Next is a request of determination of accessibility 183, owner applicant is Fatima X Xavier. Project location 164 Philstone Lane, assessor's map is U-04-0069, filed by Northeast Engineer and Consultant on behalf of applicant. The applicant is proposing to install a 810 previous paver walkway and patio, an 8x10 shed, 85 foot by 6 high stockade fence, and a 80 foot by 4 foot high chain link fence with previous establishments limited of work.
Should be a butters.
There's no abutter notification.
Oh, I'm sorry, the
yeah.
advertisement.
RDA. Yeah, we still have it.
Okay, so, good evening again, Jeff Tolman from Northeast Engineers and Consultants, here representing Fatima Xavier, the applicant for this request for determinant of applicability. So what we're looking to do here is she's looking to put in a walkway and patio, was the primary thing she was looking to get done with this project. It's going to be made out of pavers, pervious pavers. It's going to be, I believe, 5 feet wide, coming along the back, the side of the house, which would be on the, I believe it would be the west, the south and west of the house, and then to the north would be where the patio portion would be. And then in the back, she's hoping to put a 8x10 shed, similar to the last application, that would be adjacent to the existing stone wall located at the rear. And then that would be, again, supported on concrete piles, similar to the last project. And the other thing she's looking to do is install a stockade fence, a vinyl fence. I have it labeled stockade, but it's going to be a vinyl fence that comes off the house about halfway down next to where I believe there's an electrical meter there. Come off the house there and go down the property line until you get to the stone wall, the stone retaining wall at the rear of the property. Then at that point, she's just looking to fence the remainder of the yard in back to the house, because she does have dogs, and she, like an area where they'd be contained back there, without the ability to get down into the wetland and stuff like that. So, that's basically it in a nutshell. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission might have.
Do we have any questions?
No, all the work falls within the previous limit of work and the COC that was handing out, it's still sitting out there for that, so I would recommend approval with a negative determination, box 3.
Okay. So can I have a motion for a approval on negative determination, box 3?
So move.
Second.
Roll call?
Aye.
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 Alrighty. Thanks.
Thank you.
Was there anyone here for that? Nope. Okay. Notice of intent, owner applicant Brian Bentley, Greater Fall River Vocational School, project location 251 Stonehaven Road. Assessors map is L-19-220-001. Filed by Niche Engineering on behalf of the applicant. The project includes demolition of the existing school building, associated site features, and construction of a new school building. Associated site work. Site work will include construction of a new parking lot, driveway, field athletes, pedestrian walkways, utility service, and new stormwater management system. We don't have your file number yet.
No.
But you can do your presentation.
Will do. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Chairman, my name is Joshua Soares with Niche Engineering, the project civil engineer. I'm joined tonight by Brittany Ferber, the project engineer, also with Niche, and behind me, Craig Olson with Casel Booz Associates, the project architect. We're here tonight on behalf of the applicant, the Greater Fall River Vocational School District, to support the NOI application for work within the 100-foot buffer zone to a forested, bordering vegetated wetland associated with the new construction of the new Diamond High School project. For context, I'm sure most are familiar with the Diamond High School and its location, but it is located at 251 Stonehaven Road and was bounded by Stonehaven Road to the west, Locust Street to the north, Route 24 to the east, and the Water Department land in Bedford Street to the south. I'm going to hand it over now to Brittany to discuss the existing and proposed conditions.
So just to orient you a little bit, north is on the left side of the page, so this is Locust Street here, and then Stonehaven Street is here. As Josh said, we have bordering vegetated wetlands on our site, or near our site, and that is located right here at the northeast corner. The existing school building is on the western portion of the site here, and we are proposing to put the new school building where the existing football field is, right here, so that we can construct it while the existing school building is still functioning. Once this building is constructed, the existing building will be demolished and the rest of the site will be completed. The site is just over 33 acres, so it's pretty big, and we are proposing to increase impervious area on the site by about 3.3 acres. This is a zoom in of the site where we actually have that 100-foot buffer. So you can see the wetland lined up here, then we have the 25-foot no disturb shown here, and the 100-foot buffer here. This dashed dot line represents the limit of work and what we propose to disturb within that 100-foot buffer. This is the existing condition shown here, so you can see it's mostly pervious area, and we have two areas where there are bleachers on top of concrete pads right now. In the proposed condition, you can see we're going to keep most of that area as pervious area, but we are proposing to regrade and then stabilize the slopes. We're keeping that work outside of the 25-foot no disturb area, but we will have to regrade up to here. The 2-to-1 slopes in this area will be finished with riprap, and the 3-to-1 slopes will be seeded with grass. We're going to talk a little bit about erosion control. This is for the entire site. We're going to have perimeter control and construction fencing around the outside. We'll have stabilized construction entrances along Stonehaven Road and Locust Street for contractor access to the site. We'll have inlet protection at all existing and proposed inlets to the drainage system, steep slope stabilization, and then we'll also have some sediment basins shown here and here. For a closer look at the area around the 100-foot buffer, we have a drainage swale, temporary drainage swale, for the construction period located just at the top of the slope and along the 100-foot buffer to the wetland. And this is going to intercept runoff from the construction site and bring it to the south to a sediment basin located here. This will allow us to remove some of that TSS, total suspended solids, from the stormwater runoff before it's discharged into the wetland in that interim condition before we have our full stormwater management system built out. And you can see these two slopes that I pointed out before that are a little steeper will have that steep slope stabilization on them. So the last thing that we're going to touch on for now is our stormwater management system. So this is a large site. In the existing condition, we don't really see much stormwater control. We don't have any treatment for the stormwater or peak rate mitigation. So we are proposing a robust stormwater management system to provide both of those. Our main discharge point for the site is the wetland here at the northeast corner of the site. We have stormwater runoff that goes overland to Stonehaven Road here and Locust Street here. Both of those eventually discharge to this wetland as well through overland flow. So the wetland really is our main design point. There is a small portion of the site along the south that does run off to the south, but the majority of it is up here. When we look at our design points, we're looking at each of them individually and then as a total as well. So the site is within an outstanding resource water area and a zone B. So we are providing the stormwater treatment required of that, which I'll get into in a little bit. So in the existing condition, I'm just going to flip back here real fast. You can see these blue lines that I have shown here are where we have our existing discharge points to the wetland. So we have a culvert that discharges here, 2 concrete swales here, a pipe discharge here, and then let me come back to this. There was a head wall with a pipe discharge here as well. In the proposed condition, we are looking to consolidate that. We're going to maintain this existing culvert and then connect to it upstream of the 100-foot buffer. And then we're going to remove these 4 discharge locations and consolidate it into one main discharge. So the pink squares shown on this site plan are our subsurface infiltration systems. So we have 6 of them. We have one below a field here, one below the football field here, 3 below the parking and driveways. It's kind of hard to tell if this is a long linear one as well. And then 1 on the lower area of the site here. And then this purple circle is a bioretention basin. So we're using the subsurface infiltration systems and the bioretention basin to remove our pollutants. So we're removing the TSS and we're removing the phosphorus. We are getting over 80% TSS removal and over 60% phosphorus removal before we discharge. And we're infiltrating a significant amount of water using these systems. So we're also reducing the peak rate of runoff to this wetland by a pretty significant amount. And then just to zoom in a little bit closer on that area for the 100-foot buffer, you can see these 2 areas highlighted in pink. That's where the stormwater will be discharging to the wetland. Again, this one is an existing connection that we're maintaining and we're connecting upstream. And then this will be a new one that we're stabilizing with a riprap apron. And with that, I would like to ask you guys if you have any questions for us.
Yeah, I have one, but I think it's from Mike. Well, a couple. I think it's from Mike or Paul. So that wetland area, does that discharge into the interceptor basin, do we know, that then leads to Southwood Tucker, or?
So, yeah, it
Yes.
crosses underneath Route 24 and the culvert and then
Goes into the interceptor basin. Okay.
Yep, and that's a Mass DOT-owned culvert, and we've had interactions with them regarding any required state access permits or stormwater permits to discharge to that culvert, and they've confirmed that no state permitting is required.
Okay. So how much, so you're adding 3.1 acres of impervious surface?
3.2, 3.3.
So will that be directed, that will also, everything is gonna be directed towards this, or will some be directed to the city's sewage system on Stonehaven, or is it all gonna go back to?
The majority of the site ends up coming to this wetland. It's a pretty insignificant amount that ends up going to the south, but it is mostly coming to this wetland here.
Yeah, there's actually no closed drainage systems in the surrounding streets, so it ultimately kind of drains along the gutter lines and into the site drainage system anyways through the curb cuts. There's the parcel located along Locust Street, that is at the northeast corner where, you know, there's a pretty steep gradient down Locust Street, and the
Right.
roadway runoff actually just kind of traverses right through the Locust Street right-of-way and even portions of their driveway, but ultimately makes it into the wetland.
Will the wetland, you know, in like a peak rain event, will that wetland be able to hold, to take in what it takes in now with the addition of the three?
We're
plus or minus
reducing the rate of runoff going there.
Is the volume reduced as well, or just peak rate?
I can double check that for you. I don't know
Yes,
the volumes
it
offhand,
is.
but I have
Yep.
to imagine.
And I missed it, what was the total TSS that you're gonna eliminate prior to entering the wetland?
So for the annual loading of TSS, we're reducing it by 85%.
86%
86%.
TSS compared to the 80%
By
requirement,
the state.
and we're providing 61% total phosphorus removal, compared to the 50% total phosphorus required, and that's all per the local and the MS4 water treatment
And
requirements.
it's safe to say that no phosphate removal is existing, excuse me, at this time,
No,
nor is there
no.
any TSS removal existing?
That's
Almost
correct.
non-existent,
Okay.
correct.
Since you have that drawing up, and I haven't walked out there myself, but I will, is there the ability to improve on the existing outfall that you're keeping? Like, what's at the end, is it flared end? Is there
It-
adequate
This one
riprap?
down
Can
here?
that be upgraded?
Did you-
Yeah, it's basically interconnected through the, a concrete channel from one culvert to the next, the DOT owned.
Okay.
There's no flared end, it's basically just a square face head wall. You know, we could coordinate that further if we think any
I
other.
mean, Paul knows it better than I do, so
um,
he'll be reviewing this as well through
Sure.
site plan review, as you
Mhm.
know.
Yep.
And that's something we hadn't talked about yet, but I just didn't know what the
Yeah,
condition
any
of it was now.
restoration or, you know, energy dissipators, we could discuss that further. But again, just based off our analysis where we know that we're reducing the peak flows and volumes that, we understand there's no flooding concerns in this area, and therefore we haven't really evaluated it further for any downstream, issues.
And this will handle rooftop runoff as well?
Yeah, exactly. So in order to, when you analyze the site, such a large site, and you consider the phosphorus reduction requirements, you really need to break up things in certain ways. So the site is actually pretty wonky if you're familiar with it. So the field is much lower than the developed site where the existing building is. So the new building kind of plays into that, where actually the main entrance is on the second level, and the eastern portion is kind of recessed a little bit towards the wetland. So we've almost kind of broken up the stormwater systems, playing to that, where the western discharges, or rather the western portions of the building roof discharge to the high side on the west, and then the eastern side of the building on the low side discharges to the east. So that's why you see it kind of broken down, and those linear infiltration trenches are designed basically to get us that remaining water quality treatment required. Because most of the water quality treatment is gonna, it'll actually be developed from the roadway vehicular surfaces and not so much the building roof, but you still need to treat that.
So what's important for you guys to understand is if you go back to the very first slide, a very small portion of this project falls within the jurisdiction of the Wetlands Protection Act. So there being great improvements made to this site, not only with the school, you know,
Yeah.
we're not looking at that part of it,
With handling the
but
stormwater.
we're looking at the way stormwater is being handled and the expense to do so. A lot of it, we would require anyway through site plan review, but with regards to your authority over this, it's very limited. So we don't have a file number, so I would recommend that we wait till one gets issued, and in that meantime, we can give it our thorough review and clean bill of health before the next meeting,
Okay.
hopefully for an approval that night.
So just motion to table.
I don't know if anybody's here in favor
Anybody
or
here?
opposed.
I was gonna say, I just had a couple of questions. I was
Sure.
gonna say, do you have a stop date on when this is gonna happen?
So we understand that construction is expected to begin in the fall, in the October, November timeframe.
Okay. And then you're gonna start down at the other end, you're gonna start down where the football field is type deal?
Exactly, just
And then
based
work
off
your
the-
way up?
The additional construction will be actually outside of this, where what they'll be doing is building temporary parking lots, because we will have to take out some parking to go to the building. And so you'll see work starting early, but the actual construction of the school building won't happen till later. in the
Yeah.
fall.
There's some initial work for temporary improvements to get ready for construction that should be happening relatively soon before this construction begins.
Are they going out further towards, the water department with, any more parking or anything like that? You said there's an additional 3.2, is there any more?
No, most of that, the increase is associated with the increased building footprint of the new building compared to existing, and also the additional parking areas, which are north compared to the water department lands in Bedford Street.
Okay, and then what about when I was gonna say, when you're done with that, what are your plans for taking down the school, basically taking down the old school?
Right, so based on the construction phase, and you need to keep the students occupied in the existing building, so phase one is essentially the new building construction, providing that temporary parking. And I believe the demolition of the existing building will begin somewhere around, correct me if I'm wrong,
Summer of 2020,
I think that would be 2025.
yeah, 2025, 2 years to build the
Mhm.
building. And then they'd safely abate and dispose of any hazardous materials from the existing school, and then they would demolish it and then begin construction of the new parking lots and multipurpose field.
As long as it doesn't rain, schedule will stay.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
Could we just have your name and address for the record?
Yeah, Natalie Connor, 11 Fenwalk.
Right.
I'm usually right across from the current auto body, and I've gotten so many, I mean, you have no idea what trash I get in my yard all the time and everything else, so I'm like, what now? Just, nip bottles and all that other stuff, just come flowing if it comes in us.
I think what you'll be glad to see that most of the shop locations are now at the rear of the building,
Yeah.
so you won't even see them now.
Okay, so
You'll
it'll
see,
be
you'll see
basically
landscape parking areas and some plants in front of the
Yeah.
building more so than any type of shop
And are they
situation or
gonna
trash.
be taking the trash, I know the trash area right now is located, they come for the trash in the morning at like 5 o'clock in the morning, so I was
Yeah.
gonna say, I'm just wondering where the trash
The trash
is
up here?
gonna end up.
There's a couple, actually the trash, see in the little inlet on the
That
drawing
little, like,
between
Cove area.
Cove area.
Yeah.
Oh, it's in here?
Nope,
No,
back up,
over.
right in between the building, I think.
Yeah, and the one
There you
that sits
go.
in the building that goes up and down on the back side of the building, that's the loading dock and the trash area right there.
Okay, so it'll be away from where it is right now, it totally will be away, okay.
It will be probably a small trash area, that Brittany was pointing to where you see the C304, but that will just be a small trash area, that's the restaurant area.
Okay.
Yeah, just a single rollaway
Restaurant,
bin.
251.
You probably have some trash areas.
Enclosures, there'll be an enclosure.
And you probably have something for the football field too. I was gonna say something of, because if you have your football games, you're gonna have to,
They'll probably have movable trash,
Okay,
but nothing as far as, we're talking larger scale, like a dumpster.
the dumpsters, yeah, like they have right now, yeah. Like I said, I'm just concerned with the stuff still coming in my yard. And then I was just concerned also with the, when the demolition time comes for me, I'm right in the auto body. And, I just wanted to make sure, what we will find out what was going on in that particular.
Yeah, what I would recommend is that they do put out, the project team, with the contractors, putting out notices regularly to the neighbors, as well as having neighborhood meetings regularly, so that then, if you want to reach out to the school, they could help you and get you on an email list as far as communication for that.
That sounds good.
Yeah, and the project team understands the encroachment towards Locust Street, so there's a big effort with the landscaping to help screen that whole corridor, looking, east, or rather south towards the building and the parking
With
areas.
the site, with the siting of the building, that was one thing we were very sensitive to, was being a good neighbor, being as a residential area.
All right. No further questions?
Nope.
So make a motion to table this till next month?
Motion so made, to table.
Second. Roll call.
Aye.
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 All right.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You guys know what the holdup was with the file number?
No,
Just timing, vacations,
Yeah,
and
we can
stuff like
just start to
that?
poke them. I was on vacation last week.
4th of
as well.
July.
Yeah.
That's what I assumed. Okay.
All right. Next is a request for certificate of compliance, SC-24-794, owner applicant Highland Farms Development 2 LLC, project location 30 Stony Brook Circle, Assessors map is U-04-0070, filed by Civil Environmental Consultant Inc. On behalf of the applicant is requesting a certificate of compliance with the exception of final lawn development on this lot. The work authorized under this order has been completed substantially compliance with the order condition. Anybody here for that one?
Did a site visit today. The work has been substantially completed. The as-built plan again needs some work, but I would recommend that you issue the certificate of compliance, and we'll deal with the revisions for the as-built on the occupancy permit.
Okay. Can I have a motion for a certificate of compliance?
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll.
Aye.
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 Okay. Next is a request for certificate of compliance, SE-24-792, owner applicant Highland Farms Development 2 LLC, project location 9 Stony Brook Circle, census map is U-04-0072, filed by Civil Environmental Consultant Inc. On behalf of the applicant is requesting a certificate of compliance with the exception of final lawn development on this lot. The work authorized under this order has been completed substantial compliance with the order condition.
Same. Recommend the issuance of the certificate of compliance, and we'll work on getting the as-bills updated.
All righty. Can I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 All righty. Next, 9, request for certificate of compliance, SE-24-797, owner applicant is Highland Farms Development 2 LLC, project location 108 Fieldstone Lane, assessors map is U-04-0073, filed by Civil Environmental Consultant Inc. On behalf of the applicant is requesting a certificate of compliance with the exceptional final lawn development on this lot. The work authorized under the order has been completed in substantial compliance with the order condition.
Same situation. Recommend the issuance of the certificate of compliance. As-built needs some work. That
Okay.
we'll work on.
Motion for certificate of compliance?
So moved.
Roll call?
Aye.
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 All righty. Can I have a motion to take the next 3 items together? Receipt of correspondence from National Grid, receipt of correspondent proposed activity in a 100-year floodplain, and receipt of review and discussion notice of FSA Annual County Committee election.
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call?
Aye.
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 Approval of the minutes from June 5th, 2023. Motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call?
Aye.
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 All righty. Any citizen input? Nope. Can I have a motion for, to adjourn?
So moved.
Oh, do
Oh,
we-
yeah. We're gonna go back to the one that we tabled.
Oh,
Very good, Nina. That was the one for Tech Associates, Mass Coastal Railroad. No one's here. I mean, I did review it, and I recommended a
Item 4.
positive determination, 2A, for the wetlands line, and a negative determination, box 5, for the work. That just has to do with vegetation control. You can either deal with it, or you can table it and see if they come next month. We can find out why someone wasn't here. Maybe they assumed they didn't need to be here, but that's up to you.
questions from the board, do we want to table it or take a vote?
This is pretty much boilerplate,
Well,
routine,
exactly.
Yeah,
annual maintenance, so I
Yeah.
don't see that we need to
okay, so let's,
come before the commission.
take a motion for a positive determination, 2A for the line, and a negative determination for box 5 for the work.
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call?
Aye.
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 All righty.
Not even close.
And now, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call?
Aye.
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 Aye.